of the tracks. The other side of the tracks.
One day in early 1979, I was in Colony Records in New York City. I was standing at the singles, and all of a sudden, in walked a very, very frustrated young man, and he said, "There's a record I want to buy, but I don't know what it is. I don't know who it's by." I turned to him and I said, "You want Sultans of Swing by Dire Straits." And he said, "You're right. How did you know?" It was easy. It was the only rock sensation of the moment. Disco was on top, the Bee Gees were #1, and everybody was fascinated by Sultans of Swing, by this group from England they didn't know, Dire Straits. Mark Knopfler wrote the song, he performed the famous guitar part on it, and he became a guitar hero out of that. And what was so wonderful was it wasn't the end, it was just the beginning. Communique, making movies, Love Over Gold. Dire Straits have had platinum albums all over the world. But more than that, Mark Knopfler has played on hit records for other artists. He's produced Bob Dylan. He's scored the film Local Hero, and he's even had time to join us here in Air Studios in London. Well, credit historically goes to Charlie Gillett for exposing your demo tape on his Radio London program. And that actually is the true story, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't want to, go to every A&R man with a cassette. And I had this idea of maybe just, I used to listen to Charlie's program. Now, in the end, of course, we did have to go to every A&R man in London with a cassette. But it just that I couldn't help noticing that a lot of these blokes in the record companies that were playing, they'd come in the morning, and usually our appointments were in late morning or afternoon when they'd arrive at work, you know, like half an hour before they went to lunch, and they'd listen to a tape while they were reading the music press, or you know, they just punch tapes in and out, and there's like barrow loads of cassettes, and it just didn't seem right somehow. You know, you should have to be forced to sort of sit and go through this mincing machine sort of process, you know. But of course, in the end, we did just the same. But the thing about Charlie's program was that we, a whole bunch of A&R people and record people generally just started going and seeing the group play, and there was a lot of interest from that.
And indeed, the demo that he played actually bore a great resemblance to the final product, I thought, of Sultans of Swing.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's the way the tune was. So we just re-recorded it for the album when we did the album.
Which just goes to show, I suppose, that a lot of people out there do have good numbers that just aren't being put on plastic.
I should think, yeah. Yeah, I mean, half the time what's on the record is not really, it's probably very rarely that it's the best that it could possibly be. I mean, well, there's no such thing anyway. I mean, they're just different.
So many groups and producers seem to be obsessed with getting the perfect take, every note absolutely crystal clear and clean. But you've never worried about that too much.
No, not at all. And I don't ever want to, really. And it's a misconception, you know. I mean, somebody came and told me about a hi-fi salesman in Harrods or someplace selling hi-fi, playing one of our records and saying, this is, you know, Dire Straits and their, you know, their ceaseless quest for perfection or something, you know. And that's a mile out. I not interested in that at all. First of all, it doesn't exist. I mean, it's a whole other thing, and I'm not worried about making mistakes is probably not the right word, although it's certainly applicable in some instances. So, I'm not really bothered about that. I think that's just, and if you've got it, you know, then you should just be able to take, you know, all right, something didn't come off, well, so what? I mean, maybe the next thing you do will. And next time you do it, it'll probably be different anyway. So, I certainly don't worry about you know, something not sounding like Toto, you know.
It's the Springsteen syndrome, I think, is to keep working on your album until every note is right. Can you spot or hear any clinkers now?
Oh yeah, lots of greenies. Well, a few anyway, yeah, still. But I mean, for instance, with the live album, you know, I wanted it just to have. I mean, you know, like live albums, by and large, well, I don't like them anyway. Most live albums, but the main reason for that is that people do live albums by re-recording everything. You know, they start with the drums, and then they redo the bass, and then the singers come in and sing everything again, and the guitarists say, "Oh, down like that," and they just play that again and keep up. And somebody was telling me in the studio, I went in to do a session for Scott Walker like a couple of weeks ago, which I really enjoyed. And somebody was telling me in there, they've just done a live album for somebody, and they've re-recorded everything. And well, it's not a live album. I mean, you know, it's not a live album anymore. This live album that we've just done, it's got no re-recordings at all. It's all taken from one performance, and it's live. I mean, I don't know how good it is, but it's certainly live. It's just exactly as it was.
Was that the Odeon Hammersmith?
Yeah. It had to be that because we were filming that so that we could have a film. So more or less had to be that, so that because everything's in sync. So we recorded it and filmed it.
Well, I saw that show, so I think you're safe. I can't recall anything horrible happening.
It sounds
there.
fine. I mean, I prefer it in a lot of ways to the studio stuff.
Well, you also like to work with other artists, as you've mentioned. You were with Phil Everly.
Yeah, love to.
Scott Walker. What was it like playing for Steely Dan on their Gaucho album? They have a reputation for being unusual people.
Well, it was funny for me because I was so inexperienced. I mean, I didn't know the ins and outs of sessions. You know, when you do sessions for people, and because they've used 357 session men on a record, and then select 17 of those for what they've done. It's strange. I mean, it was strange for me, but it was like it wasn't like being chucked in the deep end. It was like being thrown into the Pacific from a helicopter. It was strange to say the least. And but having spent quite a lot more time in New York, and now for me to do that now would be quite different. I would be quite used to things that they were doing. It was really me, the fact that I was more inexperienced. It seemed strange to me, but it wouldn't now. For instance, they'd say, "Well, he's playing this and he's playing that. I like what he did there," and yeah, but you know what I mean. And I'm thinking, just a minute, I'm here, but in fact, it's not. And whereas that would strike you as being strange if you're an outsider, when the more time you spend in that New York thing, you sort of adjust to it a bit more. Although I remember the technician, the assistant on that session at the end of it, he said 4 in the morning or something. So, well, because they sort of went off and didn't say goodbye or something, they just sort of disappeared. And I said, well, how was that? And the technician said, "You did great, man. You did great." He said, I've seen seasoned session men crawling out of here on their hands and knees, literally, in tears and all sorts of things, So they used it anyway, so it's fine.
At least in the 60s, Bob Dylan had a reputation of being an artist who didn't pay much attention to his production. I recall Phil Spector saying that he thought one of the reasons Dylan didn't have more great hit singles was because he didn't pay attention to his production. Had it changed by the time that you were involved on Infidels?
Well, they're talking about heavy change all the time. I mean, back on Slow Train, he'd gone to Jerry Wexler and said, I want to make a professional record, you know. Well, one of them. I've been doing like home records. Now I want to do a professional record. And that had changed again after that. He went back to sort of doing what you call home records. And in Phil's, he just came and asked if we could do it. And I don't know whether that's a professional record or a home record or what it is. I mean, I didn't mix it. So it's different from, it came out different from the way, you know, the way my roughs are from the end of the recording process, you know, to the final record. So it's a bit of a combination, I think, of some things well recorded and some things that fit and some things I don't personally like.
You know a woman like you.
It was while you were making movies that your brother left the group. Brother David. I've always thought it must be difficult to mix brothers and non-family in a group. Had it been difficult?
Yeah, it is. But also, that was a time, you see, that was the point at the end at which we'd been working so much and touring so much, and Dave just doesn't really take to touring too well, and in a way you have to be so in love with what you're doing that just becomes a part of it. That, I mean, we love touring, and that's a part of it. You have to put up with all the bits, the low bits, in order to get the highs.
Well, Making Movies was an outstanding record, and Romeo and Juliet in this country a great favorite.
So your love struggle.
One song that I think certainly had something to do with your life and experience on Making Movies was Tunnel of Love, correct? I was told that that was based on a ride you had as a child.
No, it's just that's a song which is, it's about it's a whole mishmash of things about growing up and about being in love, but also it's about being in a band. So it was all mixed up, you know, with that, and it kind of used the Spanish city in Whitley Bay, which everybody called it the Spanish city because it was kind of exotic, you know, sort of these white turrets, like Turkish-style turrets, you know. So that exoticism up there, you know, was something, the Spanish city. And we used to go up there every weekend or so, you know, when I was there. You used to go up and just play about, and you started when you were small, and then you'd end up going out there when you were a teenager anyway. So it figures quite fairly largely, and, you know, if you grow up in the Northeast, then it keeps popping in there every few weeks or so in your life. It would be in there somewhere.
Private Investigations, which was the single in this country from Love Over Gold, was one which immediately was distinctive when it came on the radio. The long, moody introduction, the length of the piece. It was one that seemed to have risk written all over it. Did you consider it one?
Yeah, but I mean, we can say what we want to put out. So, and the great thing about our record company is that when you say, "All right, let's just heck with it. This will be the single, right?" And then they go, "Oh, all right then," which is great.
It was effective and a great success, reaching number 2 in the charts in this country.
Did it?
Yes, that's right.
Oh.
That's right. Obviously, it doesn't really concern you what positions you reach.
I didn't know that. I didn't know it was that. I didn't know it did as well as that.
Do you feel at all a sense of accomplishment with something like that? Do you feel a sense of achievement personally about anything you've done?
Not really. I mean, I don't listen to the records. Don't actually like them that much. Quite honest with you, I don't listen to them that much. But being inspired that's actually better than listening. I mean, at the point of writing the song, and you were asking me about, do you like, proud? What do you think of what you do or something? I mean, it's the point of writing it when you know that what you're doing is okay at that point of creating, or when the band's there and you're getting all the parts in, and you're realizing it. That's the most exciting time. A lot of the rest of it, even though you can enjoy it tremendously, it's recreation. But it's the point of making it that counts. Like, I remember doing that bit in the middle of Tunnel of Love when I was actually writing it on an acoustic, and you know, part B follows part A. There's this like lovely sometimes logic of what you're doing. You know, one bit follows another bit. So it's the same if I'm playing, like I'm writing songs for a film right now, and I might not be able to remember the tune, but if I play the first bit, then the rest will all just flow after it, because the next bit should follow logically. And it's that kind of progression of what should follow from what's gone before that I find exciting. And it's that moment, but the moment of inspiration is the most exciting.
So you don't feel that you'll ever be in danger of peaking in terms of your own interest?
No. No, I want to, if I ever get to 60 or something, you know, I'll be just getting a guitar and say, well, you know, just off with the lads, dear, you know, and I'll be, you know, I'll be down the club just playing, I think, probably playing in it. Probably be a totally wild, psychedelic jazz band or something. I don't know what it'll be. It'll be something.
Well, it sounds like you have a lot coming out. You have a live album coming out. You're working on these films. Do you have enough vision into the future to know what you want to do beyond that?
I'm going to have a holiday, and then do another band album.
Do you look forward to them?
Yeah, look forward to everything. And I look forward to this afternoon. I look forward to tomorrow. And I mean, if you can look that far, I think you're doing pretty well. I mean, you're lucky, you know, I'm very lucky. So, but I look forward to everything, really. There's nothing I'm not looking forward to.